It is my honor to introduce the speaker for this session, Professor S. Mahendra Dev, who will deliver this special lecture. Professor Dev currently is the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India. Previously, he was director and vice chancellor of IGIDR in Mumbai for 12 years. And prior to that, the chairman of the Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices. He has served on the National Statistical Commission. He was vice chairman of the Board of Trustees of the IFPRI. He has also been a consultant advisor to major international organizations, including the World Bank, the UNDP, ILO, FAO, and the OECD. His scholarship spans development economics, agriculture economics, and macroeconomics, with over 150 research publications and numerous books to his name. Today, he speaks on Indian economy, growth, inclusion, and sustainability. A very warm welcome to you, sir. I request our director, Dr. R. Kavita Rao, to chair this session. And with that, it's over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir. We heard you were a little indisposed today, so thank you very much for making it to be with us. It's very special for us, given that we are celebrating 50 years of NIPFP's existence, and we look forward to continued support and work partnerships with all of you. Please.
I can use like this, or
you can just use the app.
no? Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to give this special lecture. So let me first congratulate the director, the faculty, staff, and the students of NIPF for completing the 50 years, the Golden Jubilee celebrations you are having. And of course, NIPFP is very well known for its work on finance and many aspects of the economy. So I'm going to give an overview of the this growth, inclusion, sustainability. Since now I'm in the governments, we daily deal with some of the macro issues and also even on employment and other issues. So I prepared a PowerPoint. So I have about 50 slides. So they are self-explanatory. So I'll go a little bit fast. Yeah. So this is on Indian economy, first on growth, the past, present, and future growth. Also, I'll also cover a little bit on Viksit Bharat and what are the challenges and opportunities. And on inclusive and sustainable, I may not have much time to I'll have little briefly discuss. So as I mentioned, it's an overview of the entire Indian economy. So there is a Angus Madison has given this data, which shows that India's share in 1000 or 1700, it was 24.5. China also, it's about 22.3. So then over time, it has come down, the share, because of industrial revolution and also British rule and other factors. So decline in India's share in world GDP, industrial revolution, British rule. And of course, at the time of independence, all of us were socialists. We missed the labor intensive manufacturing and quality of basic education and health. These are the two things we missed. And so 4 decades almost, we had 3.5% growth. And also many countries went for liberalization by the end of 1970s, particularly East and Southeast Asia. But India introduced only in 1991. So of course, in the last 3 decades post-reform, we had 6 to 6.5%. So India missed 2 chances since independence. One on the policies in the first 3 decades. No focus on labor-intensive manufacturing, and of course on human development also. Second is India is late by 15 years on liberalizing the economy. So why I'm asking this, telling this because some people ask me, sir, you are saying it's the largest growing economy, the fastest growing economy, but your per capita is very low. So, compared to other countries, we are latecomers, and we had 3.5% for first 4 decades. So even if you grow now, you can't grow 20% to catch up the thing. So the per capita income is still lower compared to many other countries. Of course, growth rate differs from one decade to another, depends on the crisis. We had several crises. But of course, we all think it's Indian economy is resilient. But recent shock, we have come out of US tariff shock, although some uncertainty exists. On West Asia, it is known that it will have impact on several, the sectors, oil, fertilizers, supply chains, and economy in general. However, of course, we will have hopefully withstand the present shock as our macro things are strong. So on growth and inflation, first on macro variables, GDP in the last 3 years, the new series showed that 7.3% per annum. For FY27, the impact on the West Asian crisis, RBI estimate last 6.9 when the crude price is 85 per barrel, and 6.7 with 95 per barrel. So growth rate could be between 6.5 to 7 if it is up to $95 per barrel. But if crude oil goes to $120 after some time, so we have to re-estimate some of these estimates, both growth and inflation. In fact, Indian economy, if we see real GDP growth, almost 6 to 8% before COVID, and later also around 7%. On monetary policy, we have heard the last lecture. The flexible inflation targeting worked well in containing inflation. So right now, of course, about 3.8%. But RBI projects, with $85 barrel, it's about 4.6, and if it is around 95 barrel for the entire year, that's FY27, 5% is the inflation. But one thing is that nominal GDP growth could be around 11 to 11.5% in FY27, because earlier it was quite lower, nominal GDP. And on fiscal situation, so far we are fine. The 4.4%, and the debt to GDP ratio also around 56%. It's among the lowest as compared to in some of the high debt countries. We are continuing the capital expenditure. Of course, the West Asian war will have an impact on fiscal. Still, we don't know how much it will have the impact. Price stability achieved inflation targeting. I think last year it was 1.8, the inflation. This year it could be the 4.6 or so. So we have done reasonably well on inflation. On fiscal balance, of course, the FRBM path we are doing, and we have done since COVID, we have done well. The combined fiscal deficit is also around 7% or so. Capital expenditure also increased significantly. In fact, the ratio of revenue to capital has significantly come down. In recent years, it's about 3.5. So we have the strong foundations for Atmanirbhar Bharat for capital expenditure. On external sector, exports last year almost 863 billion, and so this year we're expecting 1 trillion in FY27. Even the recent numbers, in spite of the war, our April exports are quite, about 4% growth or so. So we all know, people are talking about current account deficit is right now around 1. It may go to 2% in FY27. There's a lot of discussion in the media on rupee depreciation, FII, FDI decline. Although our fundamentals are good, but FII, FDI probably could due to some other factors like AI investments in the US and in few other countries, and also the rupee depreciation. I think around 96 today. So I feel that it may stabilize that because if the war continues further, of course, there will be problems. But if it is war comes to an end, then it may stabilize. And FDI flows and FII also we may get back. So if we see trade balance, of course, the exports in services is much higher. But the remittances, some people say that it will decline, but the recent numbers show that remittances are quite good in the last year, 135 billion, in FY21. I don't think much decline will be there even FY27. On financial sector, also we have done well on NPAs and capital adequacy ratios. The now banks are in robust thing. For example, even PSBs have 16.6% capital adequacy, so they're in doing well. Of course, digital transactions grown exponentially. That 131 is partly because both UPI and card. So it is done well, and even compared to other countries, we have done very well in digital transactions. What are the government efforts, on this West Asian war? In fact, government has developed emergency response mechanism. Since COVID, several fiscal, monetary, trade, and supply side interventions. For example, 1 lakh crore stabilization fund, ECLGS for MSMEs, and support to exports and trade. There are interministerial coordination. Even today, Prime Minister is discussing this with Council of Ministers at this point of time on how to deal with this crisis. And also institutional policy coordination. And energy security measures, I think with the increase in price diversification to EVs and all, hopefully will increase. Now I come to these 2047 goals we're talking about. The global challenges are well known. In fact, economic survey says it is not economic policy, but it's economic statecraft, the global challenges. Geopolitical competition, concerns over technological domination, and of course, supply chain vulnerabilities. But India playing an important role in global leadership, particularly in BRICS and even G20 and South-South cooperation. We are going to have BRICS meeting this year. So hopefully we'll have more cooperation. On domestic opportunities, some estimates show that we need to have 11 to 12% nominal and 7 to 8% real. For example, Dr. Rangarajan says 7.5 may be enough for 2047 goals. Economic survey says 8%. But of course, states also doing targets. For example, UP said 6 trillion by 2047, and Maharashtra said 5, Telangana 3. So like that, several states. I think Niti Aayog is coordinating on this, some of these targets. Of course, we all know as students of economics, the two drivers of growth are well known: investment and exports. The new series shows investment rate is around 34%, but you need to have more probably to get 7 to 8% growth. Private sector investment, it's not coming up, although they are having balance sheets are quite good. Although when I talk to the CI and other people, they say there is why you are not investing the private sector. They say, sir, it's uncertainty. But you have been saying for the last 10 years, the uncertainty is there, and next also there will be a lot of uncertainties. So, but they said they have started investing in now. The private sector said hopefully it will increase more. Yeah, for example, the last three numbers are more the new base series. It's about 34% investment rate. Fixed capital formation is about 32% or so. Yeah, many firms, as I mentioned, that are doing well. But states also making efforts to invite FDI. For example, Andhra Pradesh is getting, the Chief Minister is saying 22 lakh crore proposals they have. But of course, savings have to be increased because our savings rate is still 31%. And financial sector reforms are also needed because, for example, the proposed committee on banking sector reforms, there are several issues. In fact, recently we have written a paper on EACPM, a working paper on priority sector lending, because there we need to relook at the priority sector lending because it was done several years back. In fact, Narsimham committee said it should be 10% priority sector lending. So whether we need to focus on some of the like small and marginal farmers and weaker sections, and rest give it more flexibility to banking. Exports, of course, we all know that East and South Asia benefited. We can't have that model. But India's response, of course, to the tariffs and all is that helping the tariffs affected sectors, diversifying export and speed up FTAs with that. But also exchange rate, although they are saying now a lot of rupee depreciation, but it helps accelerate exports and reduction also in imports due to higher cost. Because we all know that without strong export growth, in spite of protection policies, we can't achieve 7 to 8% growth. Of course, measures also, the government is thinking how to attract FDI and FEI in the next few weeks. We'll come to know. We have several FTA agreements. India-US bilateral trade framework, latest one. Although there is a reduction from 50% to lower level, still we have not come to an agreement, but hopefully soon we'll have. So there are, with 38 countries, we had this FTA, with several countries. It also opens, for MSME to export because of FTAs. But however, the export constitutes only 20% of GDP. So mostly it's a domestic demand, the growth. So despite global uncertainties, India has emerged as a global bright spot because of several reforms. In fact, Finance Minister mentioned 350 reforms since August 2025 in the budget she mentioned. More focus on ease of doing business and deregulation. In fact, EACPM is also doing a lot of work on these reforms relating to deregulation and all. What are the other sources of growth? Of course, we all know that some of them are the rise in human capital and skills and total factor productivity. We are lagging behind and of course, the young population with median age of 28 years compared to 50 in Japan, 40 in US, and 38 years in China. And urbanization also is increasing. So that's another important source will be. And women's labor force participation rates, because world average is about 50%, and we are lagging behind. So, and of course, the fast-growing digital technology and AI. Digital, I already mentioned. AI, of course, we don't have the large language models and all, but we are adoption is quite high. That we all know that some of the sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, services, and many other sectors health education will benefit from that. But there's a lot of debate. Tomorrow also you're going to discuss the employment thing. So there is no clear-cut evidence. Some are saying it will increase, and even some economist articles said even among the skilled workers, particularly semi-skilled workers, you may lose jobs. Because earlier we were thinking only unskilled workers will lose. So we have to see the evidence in the next few years. Policies for absorbing shocks. I think we should have risk management approach now because of the frequent shocks. Need to identify critical economic choke points for some of the energy, food, fertilizers, and we need to have more buffers like even petroleum reserves and all. Even if some you have to spend more and sacrifice the growth on that, but we need to have some reserves. And of course, diversification. In the medium term, of course, we transition to renewables. We are now moving towards that. About the Viksit Bharat, as I mentioned, 1700 was 24.5. But some estimates by D.K. Srivastava et al. Show that by 2043-44, India's share could be 25%. But this is in PPP terms, not in nominal. So we'll be the number one in PPP terms by that time. Share of China will be 18% and US 11%. So these are the numbers the recent book by D.K. Srivastava gives by 2043-44, 25% or so. So we will see whether we can reach that. First, coming to briefly on inclusive growth. Viksit Bharat doesn't mean just achieving growth. It also includes inclusive and sustainability. So approach of the government is to include women, the other groups and regions, and but the numbers, consumption and multidimensional poverty decline. But according to me, inclusive growth is the quality employment creation. That is the most important thing we need to have. Of course, education, health, nutrition to reduce inequalities is also important. So on quality employment, I'll briefly discuss on structural transformation from agriculture to manufacturing services, because that is the where quality will increase. If we see males, females, there is a structural transformation for males. For example, 2011-12, agriculture 43.3, it declined to 36 in 23-24. So manufacturing did not increase, but services, even in employment, services 27% to 35%. Whereas females, it is the other way around. The share of agriculture has increased, and manufacturing also declined. Service also, there is a decline. So non-agriculture, there is significant decline from 44 to 36, whereas males, it increased from 57 to 64. On agriculture, it's also an important sector because still 44 to 45%, 46% in employment. So we have achieved a lot of transformation, but the green revolution approach has led to waterlogging. So we need to shift from rice, wheat to millets, pulses, oil seeds and all. But however, if you ask the farmer, Punjab farmer, anybody, rice gives the higher return. For example, if we see gross return over A2 cost from plus farm labor, rice, it is about 30,000 per hectare, jowar at 9,000 and bajra 8,600. Only maize competes with rice, about 31,000 or so. And also farmers have to depend both on agriculture and rural on-farm now, because some estimates show that 45% of income from farmers come from cultivation, but the rest comes from non-farm business, salaries and all. Even the NABARD survey shows that agriculture for rural households is only 27%. So they have to depend on both agriculture as well as the non-agriculture particularly rural non-agriculture, for their livelihoods. And also, ICAR and all, they're more on production approach. I mean, the seeds and improve, but we have to go more, the post-harvest and marketing. I mean, the reforms, of course, marketing states have to do it. We have to go beyond farming and develop value chains, and also food and agro processing. We are doing some work at ESCPM on this. But small farmers need help. We require FPOs, the farmer producer organization cooperatives, and for helping them in input and output marketing. And role of women is increasing in agriculture, because not only agriculture production, but also in processing, marketing and all, it is improving. But having said the importance of agriculture, I mean, the quality employment, the manufacturing sector growth is crucial. But there are many global challenges. Unlike the peak globalization period, we have a lot of problems now, protectionism and all. So now many people are having this industrial policy. So this is one of the things. This trend reflects a broader economic fragmentation, uncertainty in global public goods. Also manufacturing is becoming capital intensive and skill intensive. So how do you improve the labor supply? Labor manufacturing is an important one. And advanced countries also now aggressively pursuing industrial policy. In fact, as per a research paper by Danny Roderick and others, in 2012, only 56 industrial policies, but in 22, it's about 1,500 industrial policies. So the resurgence of industrial policy across nations marks a significant shift in economic strategy now compared to the peak of globalization. For example, Nagesh Kumar and all says that it is possible to raise manufacturing growth and employment. But there is also debate whether you need manufacturing or services. But I feel that both are complementary. In fact, sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between manufacturing and services because manufacturing also has services and some of the things, and service sector also needs an expanding manufacturing. In fact, some of the growth in service sector is due to expanding manufacturing. Of course, due to global uncertainties, we are, fastening the domestic reforms, as the Prime Minister mentioned from the Red Fort, the ease of doing business, as I mentioned earlier. In fact, they abolished so many unnecessary compliances. The government has already appointed 2 committees on deregulation, chaired by the present Cabinet Secretary and previous Cabinet Secretary. PLI scheme, of course, is successful in mobile handsets, significant increase. And earlier we were importing a lot. Now we are exporting a more. So strategic policies on manufacturing, when you talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, particularly in semiconductor chips, critical minerals, we need to have some focus. But it doesn't mean, Swadeshi doesn't mean going back to import substitution. Basically, we are saying that competitiveness increase and the quality increase so that we can export more and also provide quality products to the domestic consumers. One problem with this is in manufacturing is the missing middle in India, because we have one side we have many workers, 1 to 10, 10 to 50, and other we have 50,000, 10,000, something like that. But China has 200 to 500 workers, which we don't have. So this missing middle is another problem in India. MSMEs, of course, they play a critical role. Governments doing a lot of efforts, but there also a lot of deregulation is required because so many things are there, ease of doing business and other MSMEs. So that the committees are looking into that. Briefly on services, India's development experience shows it quickly transformed from services, but the employment, for example, in agriculture is about 292 million, services about 188 million, and industry 153 million. That includes manufacturing, construction, and all. But in services, it's a duality because high-skilled sectors offer regular jobs, but low-skilled subsectors remain dominated by self-employment. In fact, this table shows where GDP is concentrated, where employment is concentrated in services. For example, if you go to trade, hotels, restaurants, GDP share and employment share are more or less similar. But you look at the financing, real estate and business services, it has about 24% GDP, but contributes only 2% of employment. I think that's where the concentration of GDP and very low employment in financing and real estates and all. In fact, Niti Aayog study shows that a lot of this duality in services. The report outlines 4-pillar roadmap. We need to have formalized and social production, and also enable women and youth to access high growth services, and digitization and green economy. Fourth, of course, there are significant regional disparities. You can see regional disparities in manufacturing. For example, at all India level, manufacturing share in is 11%. But you see Gujarat, Haryana, Punjab, high manufacturing share, 21%, 22% Gujarat, Haryana. But Bihar, it's only 5%, the manufacturing share in employment. Similarly, you can see in services. Kerala, as you all know, it's the highest share in services, the 49% in employment, not the GDP. And whereas Chhattisgarh, MP and all have very low, around 19% or so in employment of in services. In human development also, states are catching up. For example, life expectancy, if you see, Kerala life expectancy in 2016, 2075, but Bihar, for example, from 59 to 69, so it's catching up. Even Uttar Pradesh and all, they're catching. There's a significant decline in regional disparities here. Similarly, infant mortality, Kerala, it's 6 in 2019, and Bihar, significant decline, infant mortality from 71 to 29. That it shows that these states are also catching up with some of the southern states and other states. On sustainability, I'll be very brief because we all know the issues. But if you look at MS Swaminathan appeal to the farmers as early as 1968, not to harm the long-term production potential, who was the father of the Green Revolution. He said in 68 itself, don't do the harm to this long-term production potential. And climate change is real and growing, and farmers are they're being nudged to grow more climate resilient crops, but economics has to be right. As I mentioned, if you are giving incentive to rice and wheat and not to other crops, then you can't grow other crops. And then, of course, India's net zero emissions, we all know. But the country has achieved 2/3 of its nationally determined commitments in the renewable sector 4 years ahead. And Niti Aayog report says we need investments of $20 trillion by 2070. But we have only so much to have, but we need from external sources. Another thing is lifestyle for environment, which is a powerful one for achieving sustainable development. Global level, this we've been talking, but I don't know climate finance, that will be solved soon. Coming to my last part, the role of states. Because it's a federation, so the state's role is very important. Because state finances, they spend more than the center, 60% on of the total government expenditure, 70% on education. You all know that Niti Aayog Fiscal Health Index, Some states are having high debt and high fiscal deficits, but many states are spending on welfare programs. I mean, some of these social protection measures are required, but there should be a balance between welfare and versus development. For example, this debt to GSDP is, I mean, the outstanding liabilities is about 29% in the recent year for the states. And capital expenditure is also, recently it was lower than the center, but again, it's catching up with the center. But about the welfare programs and other, Dr. Rangarajan says there should be some limit. The subsidies and we should cap it 10% of total expenditure of central government and state governments. So unless there is a welfare versus development is very important. Many states, of course, the state capacity we have to increase, but states, decentralization stops with them. They don't want to decentralize to municipalities and thing. I mean, Karthik Muralidharan's study, he has shown that, in fact, decentralization is very high in China, 51%, 27% in US, and distant 3% in India. So last few minutes on the concluding observations. There are several global and domestic challenges for rising growth and also employment and sustainability. West Asia war will have significant impact on India's fiscal, the economy and all, because even if war stops, it will take some time for oil production and supply chains to stabilize. And we may not go back to $69 barrel in the near future. India's journey to Viksit Bharat, of course, it's not just GDP numbers. We have to have the higher investment, stronger states, and faster implementation. And R&D, of course, you all know it is quite low in India, both private sector and public sector share is much higher than the private sector. Long-term, two structural problems. One is as I mentioning since the beginning, the labor-intensive manufacturing, long-term structural transformation issue. So in the last decade, industrial policy, as I mentioned, has taken a more strategic character. Government is doing domestic reforms and strategic industrial policy, also giving push to MSME sector. As I mentioned, manufacturing and service are complementary. Second structural problem is the health, education, and skills. We are, compared to East Asian countries and all, we are still lagging behind. Particularly, there is a dichotomy in both education and health because we have world-class IITs and all, but at lower level, the learning things are, low. And climate change, of course, is an important one. And GDP growth is, even for the 2047 goals, that's not the only goal. Unless it is inclusive and sustainable, it doesn't benefit all sections. And on inclusion, employment creation with quality is the important thing, also for reducing inequalities. Last two slides. Role of states in this journey is equally crucial because each state should have their own targets, but there are large interregional variation. I always quote on Joan Robinson's quote that whatever you can rightly say about in one part of India, the opposite is also true in another part of India, in large country. Because some people compare with small countries. Somebody yesterday was telling Sri Lanka, the growth rate is higher, something. But if you see some of the states maybe having higher growth than some of the countries in the world. And also demographic dividend, I think Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh will have much more demographic dividend in future because the old age population will be lower. For example, 11% in Bihar, while in Kerala, it would be 23%. And median age in Bihar is 23, while in Kerala, it's about 37. So they will have more demographic dividend, provided education and skills are there. and migration also may think. So last slide, what are the reasons for India's resilience? Of course, three factors: political stability, macroeconomic, and large domestic economy. Why many countries want to come to India? Because the large domestic economy, and also with US, we want to have more, the trade thing, because they also have large domestic market. Only concern, of course, global uncertainties, and of course, role of non-economic factors also important. But what we want to achieve is not unique. Several countries have done it: Japan, Germany, Singapore, and other. So to conclude, India has progressed on many fronts, and there will be shocks. We have to, maybe reduction in growth and increase in inflation and all. But we can achieve, build on achievements so far, and have moved towards society which is not only higher growth, but also inclusive and pro-nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for an interesting lecture, which takes us through a lot of history and brings us to India as we see it today. We'll open the floor to some questions, comments. Yeah, Shruji.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, I was looking at this fiscal monitor data of IMF. If we look at the average of richer countries and emerging market economies, as well as the poorer countries, the interest payment component to GDP ratio all over the globe lies between 1 and 2% of GDP. And in our country, the combined interest payment to GDP ratio is more than 5% of GDP, which is higher than 20 to 25% of state budgets. And this time for union budget, it is 40% of the revenue receipt of the central government. So can we do something about it? I mean, through restructuring of our debt or something. I mean, I have proposed, I wrote a paper recently in EPW, so I have my ideas, but it's a real issue, in my opinion, which can free a lot of fiscal space for other important expenditures. Thank you, sir.
If nobody else has questions, I'll start with a couple of my own, and then we can see if the room warms up a little bit. So I have one question, sir, on agriculture. We keep coming back to this idea that rice and wheat are provided a lot of support, but they therefore become the two crops that farmers want to produce. So does it make sense to say that the government should be shifting support to other products, other crops, and easing out of these two primary commodities? Or are we looking only at market solutions to induce this transformation? Because without that, we are stuck with the present structure. So that is one question that I had, because there is a large employment implication of dependence on agriculture in India. The second, completely unrelated and going out there, is about FTAs. And I don't work on the space, but I'm curious to know if domestic investment is not picking up for whatever be the reason, and we are doing FTAs, is there a possibility that we actually transfer investment out of the country rather than getting into the country? So does FTA make it more efficient for us to import the goods and therefore manufacturing happens somewhere else, as against it attracting investment into the country? Will Indian entrepreneurs start choosing to go abroad for manufacturing? Two very unrelated questions, but your thoughts on them. Anybody else would like? Yeah, Rodney.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. I have a very general question of sorts. There's a very beautiful figure about the share of India in the world GDP that you put out at 35%. So in general thoughts about what do you think would be the primary driver or of that kind of future?
would you like to?
Yep.
Yeah.
On interest payments, you're right that we need to reduce that, and across states also it's quite high. Some of the states, but compared to earlier, I think it shows some reduction now because of the debt and fiscal deficit are more controllable. But we have to move, as you said, compared to other countries, it is much higher for India. I'd like to see your paper in EPW. On agriculture, this. I was also one of the culprits as chairman of Agriculture Prices Commission fixing the MSP. Because out of 24 crops, we announced the price. The procurement is only for rice and wheat. Then pulses and all little bit is there. So unless we take on this MSP thing also, which is not more difficult thing. And so because if you ask the Punjab farmer, I went several times to Punjab. So they say, sir, it's easier to grow rice and wheat and get the incomes, better incomes. So why should we shift to, of course, some people say that we should give incentives or money for them to shift to other crops. But that may be a temporary solution. But the economics have to be right for other crops. But also from the climate point of view, also climate resilience, the pulses and others are much more resilient because this rice, wheat, and sugarcane occupy about 80% of water. So other crops can benefit from this then. So it's a work in progress. How do you shift to this pulses, oil seeds, and other crops? But one resilience for India is that the one is, of course, horticulture growth is quite high, and also the livestock share is almost 30% in gross value added, gross output, and also the fisheries also is increasing about 10% or so share. So that gives some, that's why we're having, even if rainfall is lower, and people are talking about El Nino and all, but I think we can withstand that depending on the, the distribution of the rainfall and all. On FTAs, you're right. In fact, recent FDI, the gross FDI is quite fine, but the net FDI is the problem because many are, apart from repatriation, even our people are investing outside. But FTAs, I think it can be both the things, because other countries also may feel that they can invest in India, that which already some states are getting the FDIs in some of the better off states. So I think that some may go from India to other countries, but some also other countries may, particularly Europe, we are going to have some agreement. They will be started soon. And then other Asian countries also some benefit. Before these tariffs and all, we were hoping China plus one kind of thing, but now these two shocks that has slightly gone. On the share of world GDP, that's we have to ask DK Srivastava, how do you get there? So, but like the Viksit Bharat, 7 to 8% growth. What are the sources of growth? Some of them we have been talking about democratic dividend, but hopefully we'll have achieved some of these sources and get there. But whether we get 25%, but in PPP terms, maybe possible, but in nominal terms, it may be difficult. Yeah.
A few more questions.
Yeah. Thank you very much for very inclusive and encompassing presentation. The thing is that what we think is the South Asian growth story is the two drivers for growth in most of these countries is one is the foreign direct investment and export-led growth kind of thing. So now if we see that the global financial crisis and after that thing, there are lots of studies that shows that global economy is now not integrating, is now becoming much more a protective kind of thing. So one way, if we see that our export demand is not going to go up very drastically, that's a one way of thinking that export-led growth model. And another thing is that foreign direct investment is not also going to be very big way it is going to come. So if these two channels of export, basically external sector growth models, shall we not see our domestic demand? That you have also mentioned that we should look into our domestic demand, that thing. But if you see the domestic demand, how it is constrained, one way is that 62.3% of the tax collection is coming from the goods and services, mainly taxes on consumption on goods and services is coming from that thing. Now, our personal income tax and corporate income tax is giving only 33% of our GDP, tax to GDP. So, and corporate income tax, as you know, that is now going down over the years. So almost 50 basis point is fall from 2019-20 to 2024-25, the actual data. And personal income tax is going up. So isn't it that we have to also look into the structure of our composition of our tax basket and to give much more tax relief to the consumption side and to tax corporate sector? Because the idea was that why 2019-20 that we thought that if we give the tax rate reduction, they will have some bumper investment and lots of new investment will come to the India for manufacturing and other things, but that didn't happen. So as a PMEAC, do you think that we should go to the blackboard and again work on tax structuring and that thing? Thank you very much.
Showman.
Yeah, so thanks very much for a very comprehensive, interesting lecture. I'm looking at the aggregate demand problem from a slightly different angle. How do you envisage the role of AI in the future on the job market? Because new jobs are being created, and the government is very keen to promote AI because the expenditure on Center for Excellence in AI, business sector is readily adopting AI, efficiency would grow up. At the same time, the average wage is likely to remain stagnant over the years. Jobs are being lost, new jobs are being created. So the wage to profit ratio might be falling because the share of profit might go up. Now, how do you look at, therefore, this puzzle? New jobs are being created and jobs are being lost, and the role of AI and the realization of demographic dividend. All things are possibly connected here.
Somebody online, I think somebody has raised his hand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for a detailed presentation. My question is regarding realizing this Viksit Bharat by 2047, sir. So as all the states are coming up with their this document, vision document, and states like Gujarat has projected their per capita to be $40,000, which is way above current World Bank's 14,000 for a higher income. Similarly, different states have come up with different projections, sir. As we see the decline, or I would say the INR exchange rate growth, so compared to 2018-19, if we see about 4.66 reduction, which puts us that by 2047, the rupee will have become almost to 247.48 a dollar. If you go even little more back to 2011-12, so maybe 186, and if you go further 2004-5, so around $180. So the thing is that now that different states have done different projections, and we have a country which is Bharat 2014-7, which we are still waiting on. When all these projections are compiled together at a national level, this is just a submission that I apprehend that there will be a lot of inconsistency in terms of these projections. So it would have been great if NITI Aayog or any central body would have given clearer kind of estimations that what would the dollar rupee conversion look like, so that there's a similarity in sinking in what at the subnational level documents are being prepared at. Just a submission, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Lekha.
Thank you so much. My question relates to the West Asia crisis and the impact for Professor Mahendra, because that will depend on the intensity of the energy dependency, our market structure, and the fiscal space. So, as revealed by Professor Lahiri's presentation, many of the monetary policy dependence on the unobservables. And how do you tackle that unobserved variables by the policymakers and the economists? The monetary policy is designed on the basis of the tyranny of those unobservables, whether it is, the expectations, or whether it is a real natural rate of interest, or whether it is about, as he rightly mentioned, in the context of India, we need to get into the growth or the output gap. So the monetary policy has only partial impact on the growth recovery process, because the prime mandate is to control the price stability. So what is India's preparedness to tackle the West Asian impact? Because I understand that there won't be any change major in terms of any threshold ratios or fiscal or monetary policy rules. We are applying the discretion of the discretionary space of the policy maker in terms of targeted interventions. But some states are really having the labor shock, and people who work intensely abroad, they are coming back. So what is the India's preparedness in terms of tackling energy dependency, the market structure, and the fiscal space? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on the protection, the export demand and FDI, you're right that compared to earlier periods, I think now it will be lower. In fact, the trade growth is much lower compared to earlier. Even FDI flows are also limited. So but given all these constraints, for example, India's share in world trade is 2%, the merchandise trade, whereas services it is increased to 3.5 to 4. But still there is a possibility of increasing from 2% to even 5% or something in the next few years or so. So, I mean, for example, we are thinking of $1 trillion this year. So we can't have like Chinese kind of export-led growth, but even given the constraints, we can still have. But on FDI, for example, Nagesh Kumar says we should look only the gross FDIs. He says that this net FDI and all is not. He's suggesting to RBI that they should have repatriation and other things in a separate column, not the FDI under FDI thing. So, I mean, some people, even the government, feel some Anant Nagareshwaran and all the gross FDIs are more important. So, but it is true that they're affected, but domestic demand is going to be the more thing. On taxes, of course, NIPFP is the more, to discuss on this issues. But I think reversing the corporate tax, I don't know whether it's now possible given the we are having the international comparisons, and but it's true. More GST, we should have more direct taxes compared to, because of it's regressive to have more indirect taxes. But reversing the corporate and more that may be a difficult one. On aggregate demand, AI and things, I think it is true that wage growth is a problem. The recent numbers, the PLFS and others show that wage growth is either stagnant or in some there is a decline also. So the profit share is increasing. But it depends on the how our manufacturing policies and even services, more formal kind of things are, because services also has duality thing. AI also still people, some people are saying it will decimate their employment thing, but some say still net it may be positive, the thing. So the jury is still we have to see AI, the mystery on employment. On Viksit Bharat, about the states, I think when people are estimating, Dr. Rangarajan assumes that I think 5% increase every year, something, the depreciation of rupee. So like that, I think states maybe also, I've not looked at that, they may be also doing some assumptions. But as you said, maybe Niti Aayog or our AICPM can come out with some paper on this. Lastly, on West Asia thing, yeah, you're right that monetary policy, of course, on growth and all may be limited compared to the fiscal and other issues. But as he was saying that most of the questions are on growth in the press conference and all, they're asking. So indirectly, they are also worried about growth and apart from inflation. But interest rate, of course, itself can have some impact on growth. The labor shocks, it's true that the West Asian crisis will have impact on our fiscal industry and many other sectors, and it may have impact on employment also. Thank you.
Thank you very much.